but that's alright.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Yo guys, what is up? Max in a Wonderlands video, and today we are going over the Bullet Witch build. Now, I wanted to have a build video or a build that can use any weapon. It's not like a cryo specific build or a fire build. Any weapon you want to put on this build you can use, and we clear chaos chambers in about 5 minutes, which is extremely quickly. I like using this build for farming. If you want to farm chaos chambers really quickly and don't want to use pixies or companions, you just want to shoot your guns, this is what I use. So I hope you guys enjoy the build video. Let's get right into it. So we're going to start with our skill tree and then we'll get into our gear. Now, this is a general gun build. You could use Stabbomancer, Spore Warden, Spellshot, Spore Warden, Stabbomancer, Spellshot. Of those combos, I think the Stabbomancer Spellshot is the best combo for what we're doing, and that is because the Spellshot is the best gun class. And I know that sounds weird because the Spellshot is what you would associate with spell damage, but trust me, it is the best class for going with gun damage, and the Stabbomancer with From the Shadows is one of the best action skills in the game, and we're pairing that with actually the Spellshot Capstone to give us insane spell cooldown. So, to start us off, one of the main reasons we are going into the Spellshot class is for the skill Magic Bullets. Now, Magic Bullets is the best gun damage skill in the game because it is its own unique multiplier separate from all other gun damage increases in the entire game. This is going to give us a huge multiplier on our gun damage based off of our percentage increases to spell damage, which we're going to be getting a ton just by playing this Spellshot. On top of that, we're getting tons of reload speed, we're getting tons of fire rate, action scale cooldown, we're getting more spell damage, more spell weaving stacks to get more spell damage, which is going to translate to more gun damage. We've got bonus elements, even more gun damage, and instant cooldown on our spells, which we are going to be using the Buffmeister. The Buffmeister is one of the best skills or spells for gun builds, and we're going to be able to have 100% uptime with Sever the Thread, meaning when we crit, we're going to get that cooldown back, and we're using a Buffmeister that's going to give us Pew. You're going to want your Buffmeister to have Pew and Zap. Zap is going to give us 80% increased spell damage. That spell damage will directly translate into more damage for our guns because that's going to be converted, and we're going to be using a Cryo Buffmeister because the Cryo Buffmeister uses spell damage instead of the base damage of whatever source you're applying. And then Pew is also going to give us fire rate, reload speed, as well as giving us movement speed just by activating the Buffmeister, which we're going to be increasing all of the damage that we deal with Swift Death. And we're also using haste to get even more movement speed. It all just synergizes very, very well. Now, over in the Stabbomancer tree, we're using Arsenal for more gun damage and spell damage. Once again, any spell damage increases, we get also increased Magic Bullets, which is going to give us even more gun damage as its own unique multiplier. This is super, super strong. Next up, we've got Exploit Their Weakness for more damage increases. And then I just came over here to grab Sneak Attack. The main points that you need are Arsenal, Haste, Swift Death, and Exploit Their Weakness. Where you put these last few points, you can put them anywhere. I decided to put them in Sneak Attack because we're going to be doing more crits in From the Shadows, but you could put them in Nimble Fingers, you could put them in Elusive, you could put them in Contagion, you could put them in Poisons. It's really up to you. The only reason I'm not into Contagion is because we're killing enemies basically in 1 to 2 shots. There's not really any time for status effects to be proccing, so that's why I went Sneak Attack. For the guns on this build, this is a use any weapon build, and I'm being dead serious about that. You can legitimately throw on any weapon. You're going to have a ton of damage with this setup, so anything that you want to make work, you can make work. One thing that I wanted to highlight, though, is actually the Ruby Spite. The Ruby Spite right now in its secondary firing mode does crazy damage, and you've probably seen some gameplay of it on screen. You can run around and just fire this thing in the air. It'll kill enemies almost instantly in its secondary firing mode, and works perfectly because it's got tracking on the pellets, so you can kill enemies before you even see them. And this is the weapon that I use to run like extra fast through the chaos chamber. So the Ruby Spite works really, really well. We've got fire rate, we've got reload speed. It's every time we reload, we're going to be gaining spell weaving stacks, and I'm using the increased duration of From the Shadows every time I reload. And that's a great enchant for weapons that have short reloads, such as the Carouser. I'm not using this on my Carouser right now because I'm going full damage with an action skill start increased spell damage, which once again is going to feed into our Magic Bullets damage. But genuinely any weapon. Kettle drums, carousers, sword explosions, what I use for bossing. The skeet prods are really good. The red hellions are really, really strong. Any of the SMGs you want to rock. The last rites. Really, just like pick any weapon, you can throw it on this build. It's very, very versatile. Now, for the rest of their gear, we're going to be using Shark's Bane rings. Now, Shark's Bane rings come with higher gun damage stats. Now, I'm picking these because I haven't used them in a build before, and they synergize really well. You could go for spell damage rings here, but I think it's cooler to use these Shark's Bane rings because on critical hit, our effectiveness is going to go up, and we're going to be critting a lot because we're using From the Shadows, and they're also going to give us a ton of gun damage, which is really, really awesome. For my melee weapon, I'm using a mage staff. You can use any staff, but the way that I wanted to like highlight this and set this up is we're using very general anoints on our gear. So like I've got a body rune with action still start increased damage by 20%. I've got a mage staff with increased damage dealt by 15%. I've got a buffmeister with increased elemental damage by 35%. What this is allowing me to do is basically use any weapon, and then on my specific weapons I've got specific enchants like increase dark magic damage by 50% because this is my bossing weapon. I just got spell damage on this. It gives you a lot of versatility in your enchants if you grab very general ones on your like melee weapon, your shield, and your spell, and then you can get very more specific on your actual guns. Now for our class mod, I am using a smart armor. Now there's two options here. This is my smart armor that I've got. What you're looking for is +3 into magic bullets. That is kind of the most important aspect of this, is +3 into magic bullets. That will increase your damage tremendously. And then we've also got crit chance reduced by 50%, but crit hit damage is increased by 50%. Note, once again, we are going to be in From the Shadows, and From the Shadows is guaranteed crit, so we're just going to be doing more damage. This was originally bugged. It's now fixed. And to pair with that, I've got a The Urge. The Urge, whenever you cast a spell, reduce your remaining action skill cooldown by 20% while your action skill is on cooldown. Spell damage is increased by 30%. Note, this spell damage increase is directly going to feed into our gun damage, and we're constantly casting spells because we're constantly critting, meaning the Urge is incredible for this. However, there is one other option that I wanted to show you guys, and that other option is the Barbaload Amulet. Now, the Barbaload Amulet is a new PLC 2 amulet, and it gives your attacks a chance to fire attached crossbolts to nearby enemies. This gives you a ton of AoE clear, and when you're using weapons that hit one enemy at a time, this is a really great option. And I actually pair that with the Corrupted Plate Mail class mod. Same kind of class mod as I was using before, but the Corrupted Plate Mail will give me a portion of my damage as dark magic damage, and that seems to be increasing the crossbolts and the ricochets that are happening here. So pairing that with a weapon like the Carouser, like the Skeet Prod, like the Ruby Spite, all of these weapons fire crossbolts and will increase your clear speed, because then you'll have these pin cushions flying around, and these pin cushions actually scale off of the damage that triggers them. So the harder we're hitting, the harder our crossbolts will be hitting, and this makes our clear speed even faster for the Chaos Chamber. So regardless of what you want to use, if you want to use like crossbolt weapons or you don't, you've got the Barbaload and the Urge as amulet options, and then I like using the Corrupted Plate Mail with the Barbaload, or I'll use the Smart Armor with the non-Barbaload. And lastly, for our hero points, we've got a mix of Stabbomancer power and spellshot power. Our class mod is going to be giving us Stabbomancer and spellshot power. Note that mine's chaotic, so like I could have much better setup here. This could be volatile or primordial. I only have actually one primordial thing on this whole build, and this is this Ruby Spite that I got to drop. Everything else is chaotic or volatile. And then in this, we're going Stabbomancer power because that crit hit chance is nice, but we're mainly here for the From the Shadows increased duration, and better class mods will give you more duration in that, which is really nice. And then Spellshot power is going to give us more spell damage per stack, which we're converting into gun damage, which is incredibly nice. And then we're going Strength for more crit damage and Attunement for more skill cooldown. We want to be in our From the Shadows as much as possible. The last points you could toss into anywhere. I put him into crit chance. If you're feeling squishy, you can put him into max HP and ward. The last thing I wanted to mention is if you don't want to use a smart armor, you can actually use a Corrupted Plate Mail. This one is like god rolled. Didn't use it for this video, but Corrupted Plate Mail will convert all of your damage into dark magic damage and give you a ton of survivability. You could also use a Skeep, a sacrificial Skeep for survivability if you feel like you're having survivability issues. But the thing about this build is kind of like playing Flak in Borderlands 3, is if you can kill everything before they can even damage you, you have really good survivability, and that's kind of what this build achieves, especially using things like the Ruby Spite. You can shoot around corners, around walls. Nothing really gets to touch you because they're dead before they know it. So survivability here is actually really good, even though we aren't spec'd into like many survivability skills besides Mage Armor, which is actually pretty dandy. So you guys, that is it for the video. Just a short little all-around farming build. I wanted to like have a build that people would be like, oh, like if I want to go farm, like what build should I be using? What's the general build to use like any weapon on? Not something super niche, not something super specific, just like toss on any weapon and go at it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, I really do appreciate you dropping a like on the video, maybe even subscribing. I'll catch y'all on the next one, guys. Take care. Peace.
I was putting